Hi, everybody. Hello, I'm James in Prague, and welcome to Life and After Death and Beyond, where we explore all different types of topics in this world and beyond worlds. And my partner in crime here is Kelly White is not here tonight because she's dealing with a hurricane right now in the middle of Wisconsin. So she tried, but she said, I have to go down to the basement because it's blowing 90 miles per hour. So we send Kelly a lot of our love. And I said to her, hold on, you'll make it, but hold on. Kind of crazy. And this is conjunction we have is really, really rough. So there we go. But tonight we have an incredible guest with us and someone that I've wanted to interview for a while now. And I was starting to read her book, The Quantum Being. And her name is Shehnaz Soni. And Shehnaz was born and raised in a culture in Karachi, Pakistan, where women were groomed and expected to be wives and homemakers and not even encouraged to go to school. And they're still like that in many parts of Pakistan. Some friends of mine, moms were getting girlfriends. She broke through many barriers, became, what do you this one, a rocket scientist, quantum coach, spiritual alchemist, and the quantum being author. So her book is The Quantum Being, and she is the author, and wait to hear about this book. And she's currently working with NASA as a senior systems engineer for Artemis program, which she's going to tell us all about. And Shehnaz is also the author, like I said, The Quantum Being, a self-sustaining and magnificent human craft. It's called The Quantum Being, a self-sustaining and magnificent human craft. Oh, can't wait to hear about that. And it seamlessly weaves together science, spirituality, yay, and ancient wisdom. And she begins by introducing the mind-bending concepts of quantum mechanics, where atoms dance and particles defy conventional rules. OMG. So please help me in welcoming Shehnaz Soni. Hi, Shehnaz. Welcome, sweetheart.
Hi, James. Thank you so much for this gathering. I'm so excited to see what we unfold.
What we unfold. And I'm just so excited to have you because for us who we know about quantum physics as lay people like myself, but can you share, first of all, what is quantum physics in your mind?
So basically, quantum physics was discovered more than 100 years ago. Okay. And if you look at the double slit experiment, it explains that what happens when you're observing the electron, whether you observe the electron or whether you observe the photon, the effects are that it acts differently when you observe it. So when you observe it, it acts like a particle. And when you don't, it acts like a wave. So the observation affects the momentum. It's pretty much what quantum physics is. And when you really understand that one sentence and extrapolate to all aspects of our life, you realize that helicopter mom does not work.
And why is that?
It's partly because there is no such thing as recon. When you're looking at something or when you're living through something, you're affecting it. So when you are living through your children happiness, then at the same time, even though you want them to be happy, but by observing them, you're affecting their happiness. You're interfering with it.
So can you also say then if you're sitting there and you're sending prayer, you're sending waves of love, in some ways that would be better to do that, keep on sending positive thoughts of love?
Instead of observing you're affecting it, but at least your intention and you're sending positive. So it's a positive effect because you're intending to be positive, right? So that is the thing, that whenever we think of another person, we are affecting them in the quantum field.
And the quantum field is surrounding the human shell, the auric field, or is it intermingling, or?
It's interacting with every single thing that exists. So, existence, of course, we define existence in the physical dimension, but existence doesn't just stay in the physical, right? We know that it stays in multiple dimensions, right? So if you want to take it for simple, you have physical, you have emotional, you have mental, you have spiritual. Let's just take those four for basic, right? Yes, because we don't want to go into 7 planes when you get into
Kabbalah. That's right? Correct. Let's start with 4.
Because those, everybody can relate to it, because everybody can say that right now, James and Shehnaz are physically communicating with each other, but we also have our emotions that only we know what they are saying to us, right? You only know what you think, what you feel, and same goes with me. And then mental is your thinking. You're the only one who knows what you're thinking. No matter what, I can't tell what you're thinking, because you can even say one thing and think another.
Right. That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So right there is the mental plane. And then the spiritual plane is where you look at all of yourself. It's almost like you're looking the forest versus the trees.
Wow. And when your soul exits the physical, what happens, do you think? And where do you go?
You mean like when we leave it, like leave
Yeah,
from
like we
this?
leave this physical three-dimensional world. Where do you think the soul goes to?
So I believe that it's kind of like a seat of consciousness
Yeah.
gets repositioned, right? So it's almost like, when people talk about out of body experience, right? While
Yes.
they're still in this physical body, the
Yes.
reason out of body, to me, it's kind of like repositioning your seat of consciousness. So you're having a different vantage point.
Great explanation. Keep on going. Wow. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. A different perspective.
Exactly. It's a different perspective. And to me, like we never truly die because our vantage point changes. And it's funny because, I have people who, like there are two schools of thoughts in engineer world. Okay. One believes that it's one life to live. And when you're dead, you no longer exist. Right. Because I
Right.
had an ex-husband who completely he still believes in that. Right.
Wow.
And so that to me is a one school of thought. And then the other one is like, where everybody has their own like based on the religion or based on their spiritual belief, right? They believe that you do exist, but everybody has their own version of what it looks like. What I say is that for people who are in the first one, the school of thought where you no longer exist, like I personally think that if you no longer exist, then you truly have nothing to worry because technically, if you truly don't exist, you're not going to feel anything.
Exactly.
So it kind of cancels each other out. So we don't have to worry about it. So I'm like, okay, then we're done. Let's not even talk about it, right?
Exactly. That's so funny. Yeah. It's true. It's really, really true. And how would you describe energy? What is energy?
So energy to me is everything. Energy actually is the one word that describes every single thing that exists, whether it exists in the material form or not. It's an energy.
Okay. Okay. And before we get too far, I want to go back to your background because when you were raised in Pakistan, and were you in a marriage or your mother was going to make a marriage partner for you? Was that the culture? And were you prepared for that?
Yeah, we were definitely groomed for that. Like all our lives, we see everybody gets married based on arranged marriage. It's all about the proposal comes. And then, so basically, whatever proposal comes to the house, then the elders decide whether they're worth considering. And when they agree, then you get to talk to the person for 1 hour.
Okay.
So that is just the process. So I was very much aware that that's the way it's going to be. And I'm going to be decided whom I need to marry. So when I started going to the university and when the guys would give me letters, of love, I knew that I'm not going for this because the end for people who fall in love was so bad. And I was like, I didn't want to die in the process. So I said, no, I'm not going for that.
What did your family think?
I mean, yeah, my family was very happy that I was so obedient, right? Because I had an arranged marriage. I did everything.
Oh, you did do it? Okay.
Yeah, I did. I stayed in the marriage for 10 years. So I basically follow the entire script that was written for me until I turned 29 years old. And then I started questioning it.
And your Saturn return. Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about that. So, wow. And as a little girl, did you have thoughts about science, about the stars, about the heavens? Or what did you think of when you were a little girl about the vastness of space and so forth?
Oh, I had like a huge curiosity because that was one of my escape. Because I knew that I'm living in an apartment, 3-bedroom apartment with my family. My entire script is written out that I'm going to have, whatever they decide, pretty much is going to be my fate. And then the only place where I felt like I could just be me as a spirit, more like looking at it from a higher perspective, was on a swing. So we had a balcony and there was a swing, and I would swing and I would sing my songs in my languages, and I would basically talk to the sky and the stars, and I would say that. Like that was my free place. That was the place where I felt very liberated. And when I would be swinging, I would feel like I'm flying in the sky, right? And I actually felt that I can be anything I want to be, at least for that particular moment. And maybe because I gave myself that preview, it kind of kept me going because, I had already an imagination on where I want to be, even though I wasn't. And I didn't even think that I may ever be there because it was impossible from where I was at the point, right? Sure. But I think that there was something in me that probably knew that it was possible, even though my conscious mind did not.
And when you were a little girl, was there any thought about what do you want to do when you grow up?
Yeah, my only goal in life was because I saw so much frustration, so much mess in Pakistan. Like, I mean, things were just really There was so much going on. Like, we even had a fire in the building because somebody, it was a mistake. But so I've just seen a lot of challenges growing up, and, bus burning with people. So my whole thing was that how can I help? Like, how can I do something that can help everybody so that they can feel good? Because to me, I felt like people were very sad around me.
Interesting. Wow. Interesting perspective. And then when you said, and you just wanted to do good to the world, but you didn't really know specifically what it was, right? And you wanted to finish school. Did you have a desire that I got to go to university or?
Yeah, when I actually got to the point where I could decide what I want to become, I wanted to become a doctor. And I was very adamant because I was a valedictorian. So I was able to select what I wanted to do, except that my dad was not in agreement with me becoming a doctor because where I had to go to the school, it was like we had to require to change 2 buses. And then when you become a doctor, you have to do some night duties. So my dad said that I don't want you to have to take 2 buses at night. The chances of you getting kidnapped or raped is very high. And I'm not going to let you become a doctor. So that was not even it was not something that I could even consider.
Wow. Were you crushed? Were you just heartbroken, or were you just, I bet your mind was thinking something else then.
I mean, my dad always dictated my life, so it wasn't like anything new. The only thing was that I knew that if I can't become a doctor, because there are only 3 professions that are kind of considered over there, like doctor, engineer, and lawyer.
Right.
And just like everywhere else, lawyer is considered liars. So for me, the options were only 2, basically. So I said, okay, now I just have to become an engineer. And then, with engineering, there was all these different fields like electrical, civil, computer. And the one that was the hardest one that everybody said was electrical. And since I like challenges, I said, okay, let's just do that.
You're incredible. You are incredible. You're incredible. Just something going back, because I'm loving your story. When you were dealing with your dad and you're thinking about your career and you couldn't be a doctor, inside yourself, did you know inside, you know what? He doesn't quite get me. I'm going to do something, but he'll see one day. Did you have that feeling, or did you just thought, I'll just try my best?
I think that it was more like that. In my mind, I wanted to help people, and I thought being a doctor is the best way I can help. When he said no, and the fact is, what he said no for, I actually agreed with him because people were getting raped and people were getting kidnapped, and part of me didn't want to have to go through that either. Right. So in a way, it wasn't like that I was in complete disagreement with him. It was just kind of like part of me was hoping that I should be somewhere where I can safely do whatever I want. But because that didn't happen, and then I ended up going to engineering school, and I kind of realized that electrical engineering is very similar to becoming a doctor.
And how many years study is that? Like 14 or 10 or electrical engineering? How long is going to school for that? 8 years?
4 years. It's 4 years.
Oh, it's 4 years. And what did you go to in Pakistan? You went to school electrical?
No, so it just so happens that I'm actually in the engineering, and I was. It's one of the best university in Pakistan, which is called NED. It stands for NED, and that's where I went. And I was in my first year when I got proposed. And because I got proposed, I wasn't even able to finish my first year, and I ended up getting married and came to America. So one of the things that happened was, so basically, yeah. But in that 1-hour interview, when he asked me all sorts of questions, I asked him a very important question. I said, "Can I continue my studies?" Because that was the most important thing for me, because I knew that once I get married, he's going to decide my fate. Because, it's either your father, either your brother, either your husband. It's always men deciding the fate for women.
Right, right.
So he actually said, yes, I want you to finish your education. So that was one of the biggest deals for me. So when I came to America, then it took me a lot of effort to get an admission because of my background and because of some other challenges that I explain in my book. It was pretty challenging to get an admission. And I had to actually convince them even to get me an admission.
Wow.
It was like, it was quite an ordeal for me. And if I wouldn't have done that, I would have never become an engineer.
Yeah. I mean, really, those challenges make you stronger for sure. And
yes.
Knowing you very shortly, you're very strong. You'll go through it. That Aries rising and that Taurus. I mean, you'll do it. So you went to engineering school. Then after that, what did you do? Go for a job, or what happened after that? And tell us more about when you got to NASA and how did that all work out?
So it was kind of a process, right? So first I had to fight to get an admission because that was a huge challenge by
A
itself.
big deal. Yeah.
Because of the fact that I had a fail in my mark sheet, which was nothing to do with my performance. It had everything to do with riots going on the day when I wanted to take a test. So it had a whole story attached to it. So I went, because out of the 3 schools that I applied, I wanted to go for UC Irvine. So I went and met the chancellor. I made an appointment to meet her to tell her why I need to get admission. And then when I told her in my broken English the entire story of how this fail has nothing to do with my performance, it's everything to do with the culture, she was completely blown away. And she basically gave me a admission on contingency. And she said, you have to maintain your grade, like, above 3.0. And so I am learning English. At the same time, I'm learning engineering. And the professors who were teaching me engineering, they were Chinese. So they were not necessarily good. So I was having so many variables. And then I'm married to a man who has his own demands and all that. So I was doing all of that as a multidimensional species. Yeah.
Yeah. You signed up for a lot. Wow. Okay. And then, so now we're in Irvine, right? And you're married.
Yes, I was in Irvine. And then when I graduated, my entire goal was, because I did graduate with magna cum laude, and I had, so now I was able to, so I was applying for jobs. And the very interesting thing about my job was that because of my name, a lot of people were assuming that I'm a man, because, I'm an electrical engineer plus my name. So they were always assuming I'm a man. And then it was very hard to get an interview because I learned that my name is and my last name at the time was different than what I have. This one is much easier. That one was like, if I tell you, it was Bandukwala, which is so hard for people to pronounce. So they were struggling with my name. So I wasn't even getting a lot of opportunity for interviews. And, but when I would get an interview, I would always get a job. So that was the pattern that I saw. But then I didn't want any job. So I would give my jobs to my colleagues who were desperately looking for jobs. Yeah, because I wanted a job. I wanted to work on a state-of-the-art program. So when I got a job working on a satellite phone, because at the time, that was one of the biggest deal of making a satellite phone. And they were using Inmarsat satellite. And they were working with Martin Marietta in London. That kind of appealed to me. So I accepted my job. My first job was with Hughes Al-Sagando, Hughes Satellite Com. And that's how I started my career, working on something that was state-of-the-art.
Wow. So satellites really kind of the beginning, kind of the satellite world. And
satellite world was the beginning. And my first role was software engineering. And even though I was an electrical engineer, but they basically taught me all the different languages so I can code in different languages. Because, once you become an engineer and you learn how to learn, you can pretty much learn anything.
Wow, you're a master. Wow, you are a master, I swear. Wow, and then how long did you stay at Hughes for?
I stayed at Hughes for actually 3 years. It was, I learned the entire life cycle of the software engineering. And the interesting thing was that while I was working there, actually nobody's asked me this question, and you're bringing me some memories, which I should share. I don't even share this particular story in my book, but I'm going to go ahead and share it because it basically shows that how I started growing balls, because this is a very good example. Right. So basically I'm working there, and I have a boss who was, Asian and a woman. And what happened was that I was basically married, and I also had a, baby while I started working, right? Because I always had many things going on. Not only that,
let's not have a simple life. Let's be real.
Exactly. So basically, I'm married and I have a small newborn baby while I'm doing this new software life cycle, and I'm presenting. I actually presented my first presentation ever as an engineer while I was like 7 months pregnant in front of hundreds of people, talking about very conceptual thing about how we're going to steer the beam to make sure that the message goes all over,
Right.
And while I'm doing all that, and I was very hardworking, I'm doing all of that. But what happened was I started confiding in my female boss. She was female, and I thought that she's a woman, so she'll understand. Because not only that, I had a small child. He was diagnosed with this because he was born with a stroke in the brain. So he had a disability. So I'm dealing with all of that, and I'm basically confiding in her. So what happens is that the project doesn't do as well as she had planned. She was leading the project. So what she does is that she completely makes me put the blame on me for the scapegoat. That's the first time I even learned about the word scapegoat in English, because I'm like, how can someone like me, because I'm just an entry-level engineer, I'm pretty much doing everything she tells me. So no matter what, I don't have the power to mess up the entire project, right? I mean, that just made no sense. So basically what they did was they wrote a performance where they gave me a very, very bad performance. And the interesting thing was that right around the same time when they gave me the bad performance, I already had an offer working on a space station from Boeing that I had declined because I'm all about loyalty because, I come from a culture, when you come from places like Pakistan, you're all about integrity, loyalty, honesty. And I wanted to support her because I thought she was my mentor.
Yeah.
And when I saw the performance where it was completely used me as a scapegoat, I was like, I could not even believe that she would do that. So then I told her that I'm not going to sign this. And she said, how dare you? And I said that when I don't agree with something, I don't sign that. And then I said that I already have a job. I just have to call them back and say I accept. And basically I did
Great.
that.
Great.
And I left.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. And wow. I mean, wow. I think of questions that pop in my head and go out. I'm just so amazed at everything you say. What I wanted to say to you was, and I don't know your background and your childhood and so forth. Have you found in your life, and the reason I think maybe that happened in other situations, I think energetically you intimidate them. Other women, you might intimidate them. And like I came back to this life in a short stature, and a healer once said to me, you came back short because if you were tall, no one would listen to your words. And I think because I'd intimidate them energetically, not that we mean to, but I think in that, have you ever thought about that maybe energetically you intimidated her or some people?
Yeah,
and you're very humble, sweetheart. You're very humble too, by the way.
Yeah, and I don't think that I ever thought that way because partly the fact that I was so exploited by people, I thought that if I'm intimidating them, then why are they exploiting me, right? Because it makes no sense.
Yeah.
But I think that you're right because it's almost like that because people operate off of either fear or love, right?
That's right. It's the only thing there is.
There's only two. It's binary, right? So I think that I just didn't realize at the time. And for me, the good thing about me is that I definitely let people exploit me. But once I know about it, they can no longer exploit.
Okay. But in the boundaries, sorry, you don't get into this. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because we all have to go through that, right? Like because sometimes you have to have a blindfold on. But the good thing is that I don't let it go too far because I am very, because I mean, who else is going to protect you?
You're right. And you're quick. You're quick. You're very bright. You're bright. You know what people, what do you call it? Psychic intuition, knowingness. You sense people right away, right away when they walk into a room, So, and how much of your work do you find was intuitive, inspirational, that you were open to whatever?
I think all of it, actually. The funny thing is that I have always been a people person. So at my work, the reason I was able to get things done is, of course, I had the right skill set and the background and the motivation. But at the same time, I was very aware, like I was very in tune with people. So one of my role, and I'll have to tell you this, it was a very fun role for me. So on an International Space Station, my role, I became a software build integrator. What it means is that you have to take the entire load of the software and run it, all the source codes, to see if it goes through without any error. Yeah. And then of course you run into lots of error, but then when you run into error, then you have to understand where the error coming from, what's not working. So what happens is that you understand the entire. So I became like a mother of all the codes that resided in 14 computers in the International Space Station that basically would communicate, right? The command and control for the entire International Space Station. It was very fun for me. But the thing is, you understand all of these idiosyncrasies and all the things. So you become really good at it. But the thing is that because you get good at it, you also understand when people are not doing something right in their code. So I became like a police. So what happens is that when you know that something is broken, you're supposed to go and inform this coder that, there is a challenge in your code. So because my role was build integrator, as soon as I would enter into office, they knew that if I'm entering means something's wrong with them. So now they're all about you become defensive.
Of course. And they're coders. Hello.
And most of these men, they don't like a small petite woman like me is going to tell them that they are wrong, right? I mean, so a lot of time, it was like very hard for me to interact with because I already knew that this is not a happy end. It's almost like a ticket. The police is about to give you a ticket, right? You're not going to be happy about it. So it was very hard for me to interact with them. But there were a couple of people that would like say really nasty things to you, unprofessional, where you like someone, I mean, it was hard for me not to even cry.
Ego. That's why their ego was hurt. That's all.
Yeah. But so basically it made like that job was a hard job for me, but it taught me a lot about like how people are only coming to you because they're trying to protect themselves at any cost. And they're willing to put you down just so that they can still look good.
Sure. Judgment. That's what judgment is. They put someone else down and feel more empowered and control. Yeah.
Right. So that,
sweetheart, I think you're a healer from way back, ancient times and including, and you're obviously a star being. But I think that energy of yours, the healing energy, the intellect, the creativity, all into one. I think people on some level probably are intimidated, and you had to get your healing work. You had to do your imprint, and you had to, by you opening certain spaces, things moved, things changed. Yeah.
That is true. I actually feel that I have always felt that I have been a pattern buster. And when I even come in people, right? And when I come in people's life, the thing is, some people don't like it when they are in that Groundhog Day living life. And then someone like me comes and shows them the mirror of something they have never seen before. So if depends, right? Sometimes you can say, thank you for showing me something I have never seen. But sometimes you're like, how dare you?
Yeah. I do it like a kid glove. I do it like I'm feeding babies. I mean, I spoon feed, as you do. When your book is like, you do spoon feed, but to people, just, speak above them or below them, speak to them. And I think you do a great job with that. And I think that you come across as an intelligent, creative healer as well. And you know what you're doing. You're highly intuitive. So when you got into, tell me something, anything spiritual happened with you? Any spiritual encounters or anything when you were sleeping? Or did you see spirits or just strong psychic work? When were you drawn to the spiritual aspects and the personal transformation aspects of your work?
So it's interesting, right? Because, so I'll tell you.
Like, I can talk to you forever, but I got to get these points.
No, this is and I'll actually tell you
knowledge and wisdom, and you got it. I love it. Yeah.
My evolution spiritually, because first of all, so everything, like from the childhood, I actually used to get nightmare. Okay. I have to say that is, how like you always get some sort of download from your parents. Like my dad was someone who always had nightmares to the point where he would scream. And then, like, for whatever reason, I picked that up from him, right? So, and my challenge was sleeping at night was not a fun thing for me because I was so aware of the darkness in the spirit. And I have always, like, because my sister and I would always sleep together, but there were times she would go to visit some other people. And now I have to sleep alone in the bed. I would be begging my mom all day long saying, can you please sleep with me? Because I don't want to sleep alone, right? Because I was too scared. So that was one of my, like, I was very aware that there's something in the darkness that's there. And then because my dreams were very, like, to me, they were very real and they were not very happy dreams. So I was struggling with that growing up. So darkness became my concern. But one of the interesting things I noticed is that there were many times in my life when I was completely alone, especially when I moved into California. And then I started living a life, which was very hard to learn. And I got lost in places, there was no cell phone, there was no map. And then I don't even speak English. And then I'm getting lost in places where I'm 2 hours away from home. So I had experiences where I felt very helpless. Like, how am I going to get out of this mess, right? And then, of course, you're in a car, you don't know what to do. And then, I truly have no problem crying, by the way. When I get really sad, I just cry because I'm like, I don't know what to do, right? So I'm crying. I'm asking for help. Of course, I'm talking to the invisible guides. And then always I would get some idea, right? And I've had that happen many times, even in Paris. Like I was lost in a blizzard and it was winter. And then nobody, I don't speak French. I have no phone, nothing. And so there has been a point in my time when I am just feeling like, I don't know what to do, right? So I'm feeling very sad. I truly don't know what to do, but I actually kind of like take a pause. I even cry if I have to, or I even talk to God and say, how dare you put me in this bad situation? Like I do all of it. And then what happens is that the exit plan comes in the form of people, in the form of ideas, in the form of something. So I almost learned that you are like being taken care of. It's almost like, and I'm going to give this example, James, and I know everybody will laugh who's listening to me. It's like, when you watch a movie like Hunger Game, and you know, like how when you reach the threshold, when you're about to hit that, and then they send you like a can of milk or something to help you feel better.
Yes.
It's like that, right? I mean, of course, it's, so I think that there has been that, but I did have near-death experience myself.
I mean, yeah, you'd have to with your insights. Tell us about that.
So my near-death experience was when I was actually, and I think I was like under maybe 10 or 11 years old. I was on the beach, Hawks Bay Beach, which is in Karachi, and we would go there on a regular basis. But see, so the thing is that just, as a woman growing up, you don't learn anything
Right.
that can, like, you don't learn how to swim, but you go to the beach and you always stay on the shore. And I was a very, petite girl and very, very underweight too. I ended up, the wave came and picked me up and took me on a deeper part of the wave. So I pretty much had the near death experience sinking. And I saw the entire, like, it was very beautiful. It was interesting because, you go through a little struggle while you want to not die. But
Yes.
then, you are in this place where you're no longer struggling and you start seeing your entire life like somebody's playing a movie in front of you.
Wow. Wow.
It's like, and it was like it's like a video. It's a video recording of me and how like my evolution happened up to that point, but it was going in the backward direction. And it was so interesting because I'm looking at this movie and it went all the way for me to go to the womb of my mom's, right? So it
Wow.
just, the whole thing was like, and I'm basically experiencing all that. And I think that, like, my dad was a great swimmer, so he actually saved me. And then he had to give me CPR and all that. So I truly didn't remember all that happened because my memory is only that I saw the movie and then I remember that everybody's around me and worried about me, right? And of course, I survived that, but it did create a little bit of a fear with the water for me.
Yeah. And it would. And it would. Wow. And when did you start working with well, let me ask you another question. What are UFOs? and do they exist? I'm just asking.
It's funny because
I got to
because
go
to
basic.
me the name, I actually question the name, by the way, because
Me too.
UFOs,
I
right?
like that.
Because first of all, anything that you're talking about is no longer unidentified, right? I mean, so the whole unidentified flying object to me is kind of like, you're just trying to make it
Yeah,
sound like it's
it's an
unidentified.
IFO.
Exactly, because it has been already identified because you're talking about it. But the whole flying object thing is another thing, right? Because the interesting thing about
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. I know
Everything
exactly what you're
inside,
going to say because it doesn't always fly. It manifests. It bends currents. Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, like the thing is that now that gets into the entire way, the how we perceive information, how we perceive light, right?
Tell us
Because
about that.
if you really think about it, we have this perception, right? That we're all on Earth and then there's the sky, and then everything beyond the sky is like rocket science, right? So we don't really know. And then whatever we know is through whatever we are being told. So there is a very like, so that's why I actually say that there are lots of questions even I have, like, like when you watch movies like Truman
Yes.
Show, right?
Yes.
Or when you, I actually am recently watching Ascension, by the way, and it's blowing me away because
Right. Okay.
that,
Down. Okay.
that show is so interesting because the name Ascension kind of makes you sound like it's all about liberation, but it's
Yes.
all about captivity. It's all about captivity, and it's so well done. But that, and then of course, Under the Dome is another one. All of these shows, what they show is that whatever we think it is, it's not, right? So there is a possibility that what we think, it is not. So that to me, like I always keep that in my, like, even though I work for NASA and even though we're planning on going and living on Moon and Mars, and truly that is what part of me believes in it. But if you ask me that 100%, do you think that that is 100% the reality? I would say I can never say 100% because I only know what I know.
Right. And that's all.
Right? Because every one of us
I
has
know
part
they
of
know.
the
That's all they know. Yeah.
right? We don't really know every single thing about it. But
Yeah.
I think more of us, if we get together, then of course we can keep broadening our understanding of what really it is. And I think that's what actually I would like for all of us to focus on, that we should all get together and start solving these problems one by one, because not one of us can ever solve any of these problems by themselves.
Let me ask you this: how many? I don't know what the proper wording is. Star beings, systems. Have you been in contact with or know of, or can you give us any insights on that? I mean, the Pleiades, we know them. I've dealt with them. Great people, great beings. I don't know how many have you encountered or heard about.
So I would say that personally, I have felt reptilians, like I have felt them.
100%.
I
Yes.
felt them actually, and I even see the way their eyes are like change, right? It's like,
Yes.
wow, like you feel like you're being observed. And
I've seen
that's
them. I've seen them. Yes.
right. That feeling
Yes.
has been there. And then I actually see the star beings, that the one I mentioned that they show in the show Valerian, very similar to them. They're
Yes.
just absolutely like, they have this light, like they're very light about, like there's just so much light about them that
Yeah.
it's like they're very light skin color, but it's all light. It's like they're just extremely light being with beautiful color, like a rainbow color. And so that to me is, and they actually showed up when I was in Peru. And you know, it's
Really?
interesting. Yeah, they
On
showed up
Machu
for me
Picchu?
in Peru,
You're
and
on
I'm like,
Machu
wow. And
Picchu?
then from that point on, they've been. So it's like the good thing is that all of these beings have always been with us, right?
Sure.
But the only time we acknowledge them or we recognize them is when we are ready to converge with that part of consciousness which is already within us.
Explain to us what consciousness is. Your take on your viewpoint.
So consciousness to me is I think, feel, and so I think, feel, and exist. Therefore, I am. Right. So I know that Descartes says, "I think, therefore I am." I just kind of add the not just the thinking, but the feeling and the sensing. I sense. Right. So I think, feel, and sense. Therefore, I am. So I kind of just put down this whole, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. And to me, consciousness is an acknowledgement of that. Right. Because if you think about it, these are the reasons that we feel that we exist, because if somebody takes away your thinking, your feeling, and all of your senses, then what else is left?
Yes, it's very true. Very true. So you have a consciousness, but it's on a different level or levels, yes? And your
Yes.
perceptions change.
Yes.
And do you think the soul will remember that when they pass into that dimension? That it all comes back, oh, I remember this. This is who I really am. Do you think
Yeah,
that
so you know what? Okay, so I have a very interesting answer for that, right? Because first of all, the entire thing about remembering is connected with memory, right? Memory, right? Memory is actually, I mean, we are more than 70% water for a reason, right? So
Yes.
connected with that ore, right? And then water. So water crystal. So the whole thing is that to me, it's all about tapping into the quantum field to access information, to project it, and to broadcast it, and to feel it. So when you really think about that quantum dance that we do, it's a very different mechanism than the way we understand it.
And
And if
what
you think about,
can you share a technique that you have to get into the quantum field, or something that you share with people that you're how to get into the quantum field? Is it
how
or
to get into quantum field is first you have to believe that it does exist, of
yeah?
course, right? Because if you don't believe in it, you're not going to access it. Because just like everything else, right? We all, whatever your belief is always going to open the door for you to give you the permission, right? To
So
do
true.
these things. So that's like a step number one. And then the thing is the field exists because, and there has been like, morphogenetic field, quantum field, unified field theory, energy, Akashic record, all of that is just different perception of the same thing.
Right.
Right, because we
Yeah.
are explaining, I mean, that is the one thing that I do actually in my book, and that is one of the things that we need to start doing more of it, is that every single person have created the story, based on the religion, based on whatever they believe in, all of the stuff. When you start looking at it, they're all saying the same thing in a different way.
Exactly. Just in a different way, right? Wow. Wow. And what about what would you think the power of thought? Share with everybody what your feelings are on the power of thought.
That is everything. Thought does become things. There's just no question about it. Partly because if you think about it, right, everything that happens on the higher plane ends up materializing into the lower plane, which is physical. So spiritualization is materialized into matter, right, by going from as above so below, right? So
Yes.
that is the process for everything. So therefore, when you think about something, whether you do something about it or not, you've already affected your reality based on quantum physics.
Mhm. Yes, because you influence the field in your thought, that thought
Exactly.
energy. So can you change that thought energy from that's just judgment, a negative to a positive? Can you do that? And will change that field?
100%.
Will
I
that
mean, you
exist
have the
forever?
power.
Or will that exist forever? That original thought exists forever. Will that positive one negate that, or are they both separate?
So it's almost like that, you're tapping into it again. So you are accessing the information, like you're dialing the channel, right? So there are lots of infinite channels available because everybody has created their thought form that's all exist, right? Even yours and even everybody else's. So it's like a soup. It's like a big soup you're accessing. But then you decide what you want to put your attention to and keep charging it and keep on broadcasting it, keep on multiplying it, and keep on, making your portal of reality with it.
Points of interest, I call it. Your points of interest.
Yeah.
And Shehnaz, how would you describe a soul group? Is there such a thing?
Well, I think that this is very interesting because, like I know that some people really do human design, and I kind of studied briefly just to understand it enough. And it was very interesting because that they had a little bit of a definition that I feel like it kind of aligned with my understanding of soul group, is that like the entire human design is based on this fact that, the Big Bang, during the Big Bang, every single soul came into existence. And there was, like, depending on where you were positioned in your in the whole cosmos, then that connection, there's a connection with where you were placed, and therefore you have your soul tribe, right? And then that soul tribe, there are people that you find along the way, right? In this whole journey that you start with and end with in this physical dimension, you find people who come in your life at a pivotal point, and then you cross pollinate with them depending on whatever you're supposed to do. And the fact that they make an effect in your life in a way that puts an imprint in your life. It doesn't matter whether they were with you for a few seconds or whether they were with you for eternity. They have made an impression that you're not going to ever forget about. And
I love the word imprint, by the way, because I was thinking about that earlier. It's a perfect word, imprint. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that those people are part of the same soul tribe.
Wow. Now, what do you think the purpose of life is? Something easy, I was going to ask you.
Well, the purpose of life is to evolve. If I have to use one word, because that's pretty much the only word I think of all the time. That's just the way I operate. I feel like if you're not evolving, then you might as well not exist.
Okay. And what would you say if you had to share something? I mean, it's so much you have in your book, but you want to leave people with, like, what would you share with them? What one message that you'd like to get across? I mean, I know there are many, but pick one.
Well, one message that I would like to leave people with is that you are it. You are it. So, like, every single, like, majority of the people have been distracted by external influencing their internal, right?
Yes.
And majority of the people who are very frustrated right now in what's happening in the world, they always can find like many people or many organization or many other bigger, larger group to blame for all their problems.
Right.
And I personally say that, you have to start from yourself and take one action that you can take to make yourself feel good about something. Because this whole thing where you've given the power to external for your internal is the reason we're having all of these problems.
The external, I'm writing that down. External for your internal, you said.
Yes.
Great line. Yes. Wow. We just record you, and a book could come right out of you right away. Yes. And so, what do you say with fear? What's your definition of fear, and what's your definition of love?
So so it's interesting because, as a software engineer, binary numbers.
I know, that's why I love asking that question.
So basically, that's the thing that
hemispheres,
Exactly, because when I teach this reality shopping class, and I have a course available if anybody's interested, but I basically make it very simple, is that every moment you're making a decision, and you need to ask a simple question to yourself, whether am I making it because of fear or am I making it because of love? Because it's a polarity. It's either love or fear. If you want to really simplify, it's one or the other.
That's
so basically, fear is an absence of love. And it's a false emotion appearing real, because that's what it stands for, if you look at it as an acronym. And so fear truly is something that just holds us back. And majority of the time, I have noticed that all the fear that I had has always been, at one point, I realized that it was an illusion.
True. It can motivate us, but it's an illusion. And do you think that concept of fear is just of the human dimension? Because I've thought about that and think, I wonder if this emotional, this fear is limited to a third dimensional world. Because I know the spirit world is all about love, and that's the vibration of pure love. Does fear exist there? No, I don't think so, because fear is a heavier energy, a denser energy, right? So just curious, what do you think?
Yeah, I believe that, because emotion, right, which is energy emotion, right? I believe that in that particular plane is where we feel the fear. And, if you think about it, that to some extent, fear kind of gives us a little bit of a boundary, right? So it's almost like, if you don't know how to swim and you're not going to jump into water because you have a fear of not, because you're going to die, right? So that fear is legit. So to me, maybe the word fear has taken a little, we have given way too much power to it, right? Because it's good to be aware of your limitations, because none of us are perfect. None of us can do everything. We all have limitations. However, when we give it so much power that we don't move forward in our own evolution, then that is when you have given power to fear instead of love. So I think it becomes a very good tool for discernment.
Yes, if the person is willing to. And I thought, as you said, it's self-love is one of the most important things we come back, I think, for. And whether it's that forgetfulness or whatever you want to call it, that many journeys of the souls are here just to go in and find that self again, to remember that they're this perfect being just the way they are. They don't have to be anything else but themselves. And I'm finding, I don't know about you, but like attracts like, obviously, that the energy like attracts like. And I'm finding in my life now, in 60s here, that I'm only attracted to people who are really self-aware. Isn't that, that's just the vibe I'm in, that they're more self-aware of themselves, their thoughts, their responsibility, their integrity. And other people that aren't, it's not like I don't like them. I'm just not magnetized to them. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, because it's like a flying seagull.
A flying seagull, tell us.
Yeah, because you are, you are already at a certain frequency and vibration.
Right.
And the more and more you are in that light, it truly is like, you are going to, and a lot of time, actually, I feel like I feel very alone in that, because a lot of time you don't feel that you can relate to a lot of people.
Yes.
However, the good thing is that it's okay, because, it's always temporary, right? Because you will find people at the right time, at the right place, when you really would like to interact with them. So it becomes a very beautiful dance.
And Shehnaz, we're never alone.
Exactly,
right?
You're right. And thank you for reminding me that. And I think that's a reminder that, because, we think that our external is it, what we see is it, but what we see is a much smaller part of the reality that we really are breathing in.
It's true. It's true. So, how would you like to leave this world? What do you want to? What mark do you want to leave in this world to be remembered?
That's interesting.
I'm asking all these easy questions. I mean, come on now, you're valedictorian.
I know. It's funny because in one of my class, I start with obituary. I actually say, "What do you want your obituary to say?" Right?
I've done that. It's a great one, right? It's a great one.
Because if you think about it, like, let's just start, like they say that begin with an end in mind, right?
Yes.
That is actually 7 Habits of Highly Effective People quote from that, right? And I love that quote because I use that all the time in my project, and nobody knows what to say after that, because that's true. We should. I think that for me, I would love to leave the legacy, because you mentioned the entire thing that makes us more human is being in this plane with our emotion, right? Mm-hmm. And I would love if I can put a smile on people's face when they think about me in a loving way. I think that would be nice.
That's great. And you've changed the world. You've changed, one life changed many lives, because of that rippling effect. How can people find you? Because I know you teach classes as well. Yeah, you teach classes. How can they find you? What's the easiest way to find you?
Well, they can just type my name on Google and they'll find more things about me than I would like them to know. But
I did. It was great.
And basically, my website is shehnazsoni.com. So that's very easy. Definitely, if people like what they hear, I feel like I've put my heart and soul on my book, The Quantum Being. It's available on Amazon. They can get a copy of it. I have a couple
very good, everybody. And you'll be able to understand it. Don't worry, because I understood it pretty well. So don't worry. The quantum being is self-sustaining and magnificent human craft, which we are. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Nice. And I'm very
And
grateful
you
for
do
this
workshops too?
opportunity.
You do workshops? You do mostly online, or you do in physical workshops?
I do. Yeah, I do interactive workshops. So if people are interested in that, then they can sign up for my newsletter, and then I
Great.
let them know when I do it, because I don't have any kind of AI doing anything for me, so I pretty much do everything
Good girl.
organically.
Good. Good.
Exactly, because I want to keep it that way, because I personally feel that we need more authenticity in this world, and I pretty much do what I do when I feel like it, because I'm not doing it because because I'm following some marketing training that I'm following.
Right.
I'm doing it because my heart wants to do it.
Yeah, you're passionate. Yeah, we'd love to have you back again, because I mean, there's so much you have to offer, and we didn't get through even a quarter of it. I mean, seriously. I mean, I just love, the conversation, and I love that you're open. It goes in different directions in different ways, and and you
Yeah,
share.
sure. No, thank you. It has been fun for me as
Thank
well.
you. And
I
yeah, Kelly, I'd
appreciate
love
it.
to meet you. So, and everybody who's watching or listening, I'm this Friday, which is going to be the 19th of January. I'll be doing an evening of spirit messages, and that's on my website, vanpraagh.com, if you want to register for that. I think it's like 40 people. So that's about, we're limited. So it's good. And then I'll be in Chicago at the end of July. Also, there's the evening of spirit, July 19th, 4 o'clock. Shehnaz, have you ever seen me do my work as a medium?
Actually, I have not dived into it, so I'm going to check your website
Friday.
out
Yeah,
and
yeah,
see.
come Friday. You'll love it. You'll love it. And then Evening with Spirit in person with Kelly White, and that'll be in Chicago, July 25th. And you get tickets on the website too. Yeah, Shehnaz, I think you'd find it very interesting, considering the work that you do and the work I do. I think there'll be a little bit of kind of parallel in some respects, insights, or perspective, I should say, maybe.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. So you do live event, like do
I
you
do a
do
lot
like
of events.
in-person events?
I do a lot of Zoom. I do some live events as well, but mostly on spirit messages. I reach more people on Zoom, on this, because that's the best. You go all over the world and meet people who can't have the opportunity to meet with you. And yeah, I come with a lot of integrity, and this week I'm gonna do something with trance, a lot like trance consciousness, going down to consciousness. So it'll be an interesting one. I haven't done that before here for a group, but I'm gonna do that on Friday. Yeah. So
Wow, that is interesting.
very
Yeah,
interesting.
the trance is a whole different subject, because I just finished my training with Dolores Cannon. So I did my hypnosis training because I was very curious about what that means. So I can hypnotize you, by the way, now.
Oh, you already have. And I knew Dolores very well. I love Dolores. Really great lady. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's amazing. So
I
yeah,
worked
but
with
thank
Brian
you.
Weiss for many years as well. Brian Weiss, worked with him.
Yeah, I met him. He's amazing as well. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank
Yeah.
you very, very much, sweetheart. We'd love to have you back, and really enjoyed having you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, James, and
Okay,
thank you,
thanks,
everyone.
everybody. And thanks for and Kelly, we're sending you our love. Okay.
Yes.